Hi, YouTube. It's Courtney, or VSG Redesign Me, coming to you with I don't know how long of an update, but it's long overdue, that's for sure. So, what's been going on with me? Well, I'm in a house, that's for sure. But let's back up a bit. So, if you're new to my channel, I had surgery in January 2015. I had vertical sleeve gastrectomy with Dr. Sommer. My highest weight was 250. My lowest weight I got down to 195. I had plastics in 2016, August 2016 in New York City with Dr. Reish at New York Long Island Plastic Surgery Group, sorry. I had a tummy tuck and breast lift, so I lost a total of 150 pounds. Everything went great. I kept my weight off for several years. In 2019, late 2018, I ended up tearing my labrum in my hip, and it was really painful. It came on suddenly. It comes from having repetitive motion in your hip, and then also I have lax ligaments. So what ended up happening was I ended up having hip surgery in August of 2018, I think. I don't even know anymore. Anyway, I ended up having hip surgery. Yes, in August 2018. And that ended up causing a little bit of regain. I ended up floating between 220, 240. I got back down to 220, and I sat there for a while. And then in December of that year, in 2018, I started to try to get pregnant at 220. And I was successful, and I was pregnant in January of 2019, and I started really quickly to have complications with my pregnancy. They were very minor, annoying things with my pregnancy, but they caused me to have to be very strict about my movement, which was very annoying. I started with orthostatic hypotension at about 8 weeks. I passed out on the 2 train in Times Square, which was really great and not fun. So that limited the way I could stand. I couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes at a time. For most of my pregnancy, about halfway through my pregnancy, I developed a thing called SPD, or symphysis pubic dysfunction. So because of my lax ligaments, my pelvic joints started separating too fast and too quickly, so it became really difficult for me to walk even more. So like the 10 minutes that I could stand and walk was really painful, to the point where I couldn't even really get up and down my stairs in my house. We also bought a house right before we got pregnant, between my hip surgery and getting pregnant, so a lot happened. So yeah, and then right at 32 weeks pregnant, I started getting contractions, and they weren't like Braxton Hicks contractions. They were like contractions. So I ended up in the hospital for 3 days, something like that. It's all a blur. And they were able to stop the contractions, great, thankfully. But I went home and I was still having contractions, and they considered them prodromal contractions because they were not productive. However, they were real contractions, and they were painful, and they sucked, and they were registering on the contraction monitor. So I sat for 6 weeks with contractions every 6 minutes it was awful. And I was pretty much not allowed to do anything because I couldn't, and it hurt, and I was having contractions and this pelvic pain, and I gained like 40 pounds. So at the end of my pregnancy, I was at like 270, which honestly, yay that I didn't gain more. So here we are. I had my lovely baby girl, Maisie, on September 17th, 2019. And she was perfect. I had her at 39 weeks. I evicted her. I had a really easy delivery, and everything went fine with that. I healed great. We came home. Great maternity leave, minor postpartum depression, basic normal things. Having a baby in the winter in New York. Didn't exercise much. Reeling from just an awful pregnancy, managing that. I had some really awful work stuff. Fast forward. Pandemic in March. So here we are now. On top of all of this, I have always talked about this, I think, on my channel. I don't know. But I've always had GERD. So for the last ever, I've always been on omeprazole. I've always been on Protonics. I've always had to have Tums with me. It's been an ongoing journey. During my pregnancy, I also suffered from really horrendous GERD. Like, I was like eating Tums like my life depended on it. I couldn't be off omeprazole. I was in agony constantly. I threw up a few times from the reflux. As I got more pregnant, it got worse. On top of everything else, pretty much I hated being pregnant is what it came down to. So after I had Maisie and the pandemic happened, I put it on hold as long as I could, but my reflux didn't get any better. And I knew that something was different after my pregnancy, and so I scheduled an appointment with my bariatric surgeon when everything kind of settled down in New York in July. And I met with him and I told him what was going on and what had happened and why I had gained all the weight, because I had been so successful, and he was surprised. And he said he wasn't shocked that I had gained the weight that I had with the pregnancy that I had. And I had told him, you know, if he thought that I just needed to lose the weight and that was what was causing the reflux, then I would. And I had no problem going back onto a strict bariatric diet to do it. And he seemed to think that there was something more physical going on with my sleeve than just me not eating right. And so we scheduled an endoscopy. I had that in August. Came back that I had a hiatal hernia, and that I have really severe GERD. So he's recommending that I go in and I have a conversion to gastric bypass, mostly to fix the GERD and the hiatal hernia, but also because I've gained so much weight because of the complications from my pregnancy, and just not being able to maintain my weight as effectively as I could from being bedridden for essentially 9 months. I mean, obviously I could have eaten better, but I'm not even going to try to make excuses. It was awful. I could have done better. I didn't. It was awful. I had a lot of stuff going on with work, a lot of circumstances, and, you know, I talked for a really long time with my bariatric surgeon about it. I was honest about where I came from and what happened and why I don't think it'll happen again. I don't plan on getting pregnant again. I don't want to put my body through it. And, you know, the weight that I had gained from my hip surgery, I know I could have lost if I didn't get pregnant right afterwards and have all the complications that I did. So I think that it's important that I have the surgery and I fix the GERD. So I know that a lot of people are having the same complications that I'm having, and the big concern is Barrett's esophagus. For me, it's even twofold because my maternal grandfather actually, he passed away from esophageal cancer. So I have even more concern about Barrett's esophagus because esophageal cancer actually runs in my family. So just being on this medication constantly and not being able to manage it with medication I have a great concern that I could get esophageal cancer if I don't manage this situation. So because of that, my insurance approved me almost immediately upon submitting the paperwork because of my condition. So I'm going to be having surgery in November. I would have had it sooner, but because of everything going on with the pandemic, my surgeon is catching up from everything that had been backtracked this spring. And then also I work still for a very large progressive nonprofit, and election season, I don't know if you know this, but the election this year is a shit show. So I can't take off right now. So I'm not going to be able to take off until after the election. So I'll be taking off the 10th through the 25th so that I can have the surgery. You know, I'm not going to lie and say that I'm not doing it to lose some weight. I'm just using it to kickstart my weight loss. It's not like, I know that I'm not going to lose as much weight. It's really just to help me like get back over the hump, and then I can do the rest. I had like no preconceived notions that I'm going to lose like as much weight as I did on my sleeve. It's really just to help me like resettle my mind back into where I was 5 years ago. And then we'll go from there. And really the number one concern for me is the GERD. I mean, I would have had to have the surgery even if I was 220 or 210. And really that's where I'm most comfortable maintaining. You know, my bariatric surgeon wants me at 185. I still think that's unrealistic. I couldn't maintain that on my sleeve. I don't think I will be able to maintain that on the bypass, but I may find that I can. I don't think so. I was killing myself to keep myself at 195, and I was miserable, so I'll just be happy if I can be at 210 again, and that's where I was most comfortable, and that's where my body seemed to like to sit without like really pushing myself to the extreme. So in the meantime, I have one pre-op appointment that I have to do. It's really different. One, because I'm on a different insurance than I was when I did my first surgery, and two, because this is just a fix. It's considered a revisional, like it's considered a complication fix. So all I have to do is go in and meet with my surgeon, sign some paperwork, they'll go over the nutritional stuff. I have to do 2 weeks of liquid diet, he said, and then it's just going over what vitamins I have to take. I'm super iron deficient. That's another thing that came up in my pregnancy. I was very, very anemic, and so we're monitoring my iron right now. He said if my iron continues to be low, he's going to want me to go on iron infusions. So we're just watching that to make sure that I don't run into any issues with the bypass, because I was already starting to have issues with that on the sleeve. Other than that, he said that he's going to go short on the bypass for the intestines. And that's all we really discussed with him. He said that he feels like I'm going to do fine because I did so well with my sleeve. He has no concerns for me. I'm a very compliant patient. I was compliant the first time. It was really just this last year that really kicked my ass. It was where all my regain came from. Which is really frustrating for me personally, because I felt like I was really successful. So it's really frustrating to be carrying this weight right now. I can feel it a lot, and it's very annoying to be at this weight. I don't like it because I do have a very active 1-year-old. So here we are. So I'll be making updates again, keeping everybody up to date, because I know that there's several people within the community who are doing this, and then we're thinking about doing it in the new year. So it seems to be the new thing. So I will keep everybody informed on what's going on and what I'm doing, what I'm eating, how it's going, especially since I'm starting pretty much at the top again, which is fucking annoying. You know, let's be real for a second. We start these journeys out and we're like, well, I'm never going to be that person. And honestly, like, if I hadn't had the GERD, I probably wouldn't be doing this. But I could have been making better food choices. There are definitely things that I have been eating that I shouldn't have been. I could have probably curbed some of my weight gain by making better choices during my pregnancy and before that. So really, I could be starting off in a better place. I have not been as active as I should be. So, the reality of the situation is, I have only myself to blame. And yes, I do need this surgery because I do have truly awful GERD. And I do barf from it. It's really bad and really gross. I hate it. And I really do have a hiatal hernia that needs to be fixed because my child pushed my stomach up through my diaphragm. Thank you, Maisie. But the weight gain was me. And I do need to come to terms with that, and I do need to reevaluate how I am eating and what I need to do differently this time around, and how I need to handle my weight loss as I get further out from this surgery, because it is a tool, and your tool is only as good as how you use it. So this is a reminder to myself because I was a shithead, and so here we are. Lesson learned. It's very easy to regain 80 pounds. And it happens in a blink of an eye. So do not be me. And do not be me again. Me. So anyway, that was just a talk with myself and a talk with you if you're watching this and you're going into surgery for the first time. So, anyway, that was just a little bit of real talk with me. So I don't want to keep this going on too long. I'm sure you'll see me again, and I will try to be updated. Follow me on Instagram. I post there fairly regularly. Same handle, vsgredesignme. I don't know that I'm going to change my handle. I like it. What do you think? Comment below. So I'll be in touch soon, and I will talk to you later. Bye. Stay safe and wear a mask.